من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. إن الأبرار يشربون من كأس كان مزاجها كافورا. إن الأبرار يشربون من كأس كان مزاجها كافورا. عينا يشرب بها عباد الله يفجرونها تفجيرا. عينا يشرب بها عباد الله يفجرونها تفجيرا. يوفون بالنذر ويخافون يوما كان شره مستطيرا. يوفون بالنذر ويخافون يوما كان شره مستطيرا. ويطعمون الطعام على حبه مسكينا ويتيما وأسيرا. ويطعمون الطعام على حبه مسكينا ويتيما وأسيرا. إنما نطعمكم لوجه الله إنما نطعمكم لوجه الله لا نريد منكم جزاء ولا شكورا. ويطعمون الطعام على حبه مسكينا ويتيما وأسيرا. إنما نطعمكم لوجه الله لا نريد منكم جزاء إنما نطعمكم لوجه الله لا نريد منكم جزاء ولا شكورا. إنا نخاف من ربنا يوما عبوسا قمطريرا. فوقاهم الله شر ذلك اليوم ولقاهم نضرة وسرورا. فوقاهم الله شر ذلك اليوم ولقاهم نضرة وسرورا. وجزاهم بما صبروا جنة وحريرا. وجزاهم بما صبروا جنة وحريرا. متكئين فيها على الأرائك لا يرون فيها شمسا ولا زمهريرا. متكئين فيها على الأرائك لا يرون فيها شمسا ولا زمهريرا. ودانية عليهم ظلالها وذللت قطوفها تذليلا. صدق الله العلي العظيم. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. صلوا على محمد وآل محمد.
صلوات على محمد وآل محمد. Thank you, Brother Murtaza, for opening our program with such wonderful recitation. Dear brothers and sisters, Assalamu alaikum and welcome to the Imam Hussein Islamic Center. We send congratulations to Sahib al-Asr wa Zaman as we gather and celebrate the birth of the daughter of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wa sallam, Sayeda Zahra, salamullahi alayha, صلوات على محمد وآل محمد. Just a quick run through of our agenda. We've just, inshallah, we have lecture, some Nasheed, some presentations, and we will have a Kahoot and Lucky Door, which will be after Salah, followed by some dinner. We are charging for sandwiches, but all money raised, inshallah, will be going to help the displaced overseas. If you were to go outside, you'll see on the wall we have posters stuck up everywhere for our Lebanon and Palestine fundraiser. Feel free, any amount, adds up, and it's our general obligation to, support the cause as much as we can. Even $1 or $2 would make a difference. Inshallah, now I'd like to call upon His Eminence Sheikh Mohammed Mehdi, if we can recite 3 loud salawat as we invite him. Salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad.
بالله السميع العليم من الشيطان اللعين الرجيم بفضل الله بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين الحمد لله والحمد حقه كما يستحقه حمدا كثيرا الحمد لله الذي هدانا لهذا وما كنا لنهتدي لولا أن هدانا الله اللهم لعنا أول ظالم ظلم حق محمد وآل محمد وآخر تابع على ذلك اللهم لعن العصابة التي جاهدت الحسين شايعت وبايعت وتابعت على قتلها اللهم لعنهم جميعا ثم الصلاة والسلام على خير خلق الله أجمعين محمد وعلى أهل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين واللعنة الدائمة على أعدائهم أجمعين إلى قيام يوم الدين. Before I begin, I would like to congratulate us all, the believers, especially to congratulate our master, Al-Hujjat ibn al-Hasan al-Mahdi Arwahuna Fidah, on this day that has no equal besides the day of the birth of the Messenger of God and the day of the birth of Amir al-Mu'mineen. Yet this day is a day where we celebrate one of God's greatest blessings that was ever placed on this earth, and that is the birth of Sayyedat Nisa al-Alameen, the lady of the women of the world, Fatima Zahra alayha salam. Any time we delve into anything historical or any event, we want to see the significance of an event. When we discuss about any significant event, why is the event remembered? Something significant has to have taken place on that day for us to recall the event, and lessons have to be learnt. And that's why we remember any event or anything. Likewise with historical figures, there has to be, we usually recall them or remember them for their achievements and what they've contributed to humanity and religion. And with everyone, it's like that. And in some cases, it might be only one word. They would have said one word or one stance that they took, and that we learn and we achieve from these words and things that they've said. Because nothing remains of you physically, just your stances. And if you look at all the martyrs throughout history and all the scholars throughout history, their stances are what are remembered. This is the positions they took, on which side of the fence, on which side of the line they stood, and what position they took. And these examples aren't for no reason. There's a purpose for this. Why do you think we have stories in the Qur'an? We have stories in the narrations. There's a purpose for all this. So when we read these stories, we can relate to them and how we deal with these stories. And how, like, sometimes people might listen to a story and might take some example from it and not understand what the story had. For example, in the case of the greatest story ever told in the Qur'an, the story of Nabi Yusuf alayhi salam. Nabi Yusuf alayhi salam, one of the first examples that we learn from the story is when he tells the dream to his father, and the father says, Ya bunay, my son, la taqsus ru'yaka ala ikhwatik. Don't tell your brothers about your dream, فَيَكِيدُ لَكَ كَيْدًا. We learn from this, when, like they asked a guy, he said, a lot of people when they look for a wife, they look like for a woman that's like their mother. And he said, why would I want to marry a woman that loves my brother more? So when you look at it in this case, sometimes there's a child that's favored. And if I enact this and I show the favoritism towards the child, and if you didn't get that joke, you're the favorite. You're the one that's favored in the family, so you don't. There's people telling you, my parents, Mabi Maisel, my parents don't differentiate between us. Yeah, it's because you're the favorite. You can't tell the difference. The other one can. It can be so simple as, mentioning something favorably about a child, the other child feels it. And it affects them. So a lesson you learn from there, يَكِيدُ لَكَ كَيْدًا. And later in life you'll see this. You see it later in life when they have division and they have problems, they say it was my parents' fault. They always gave him preference over me. So stories and events and figures that we can learn from. That's why with someone of the status and position of Fatima alayhi salam, never you hear of someone that lived to 18 years of age that there's so many stories around her and her stance and her position. There's so many we could go through. Even some people try and explain her sermon, Khutbat al-Zahra alayhi salam, al-Fadaki, which teaches you everything from A to Z in Islam in just one sermon. But a lot of the things that aren't discussed and are very important is things like her altruistic nature. Of Fatima alayhi salam giving her wedding dress on the night of her wedding. People buy something new. Someone purchases something new, what do? We go and put the old stuff to charity. Or something's not useful, let's just take it to the Islamic Center and drop it off there. Rarely, there are people that do this, but rarely do people go purchase something new and take it to the Islamic Center. Or purchase, I went to someone's house to see, and he had all these bags of products, like new bags of clothing and toys. And I said, oh, you went shopping? He says, no, my Christian neighbors, they purchased all these toys and stuff for me to send overseas for the war in Lebanon for me to send to people. They went and bought new stuff rather than say, hold on, these are old garments, we'll throw them. Fatima alayhi salam did not only give her newest garment, because back in those days there wasn't It wasn't like now, you go get a wedding dress, they measure you up, you rent it for the night, or you purchase for God knows how much money, you never wear it again. It's just a one-off thing. Back then, your wedding dress was your new garment that you'd wear. That's why when people used to probably read the emperor's new clothes, they didn't understand the significance of having new clothes was what you're going to wear now. If you ever watch some cartoons, like you watch the Flintstones or the Simpsons, or one of these cartoons that they have, the main characters are all wearing what? The same clothes. That's how it was in the old days. You knew a person, if he wore a floral shirt, that was the floral guy. And they'd be remembered like this. They would always wear the same shirt. I remember a guy, he used to wear, back in the 1980s, he used to wear this shirt, and it said PLO on it. Back then, that was the Palestinian Liberation Organization. And people started calling him Plo, and it just stuck to him. And he would be called Plo because he had PLO. There was another guy, he used to wear this shirt. And these are people that actually exist. And if I'm giving them a plug, that's good luck to them. Another guy used to wear a shirt that said Ickis on it. And it stuck to him. That was his name, Ickis. And the nickname just stuck. Just from something they wore. But these people would alternate with what they're wearing. Back in the old days, you had that one garment. I was using my sorcery, and I needed for it to be remedied. Anyway, so at that time, Fatima alayhi salam had that garment, that new dress, and on that night of her wedding, she gave that dress and remained with her old garment. That was the garment that remained. So on the day when they had made a vow that if Imam Hassan and Hussein alayhim as-salam was sick, and if they would get good, they said that they would fast for 3 days. They'd become healthy. We would fast for 3 days. On those 3 days that they fasted, on every night they broke their fast. And when we say they broke their fast, they didn't have the open buffet, that we have on the table. 3 types of soups and salads and, every single type of dish that's there. They had their bread, which is their barley bread. And if you haven't eaten barley bread, it's like eating a brown paper bag. It's got pretty much the same taste, So they had their barley bread, and they had some salt. And on the first night, a miskin would come past. And a miskin, someone that's impecunious, someone that has absolutely no money whatsoever, knock on the door. And they all gave their... It's not like Amir al-Mu'mineen grabbed everyone's iftar, said, listen, no supper for you tonight. He gave his share. Fatima gave her share. And the rest of the family gave their share. So for them to satiate this person, their shares combined would satiate them. Now you look today, people have leftovers in their plates. وَيُطْعِمُونَ الطَّعَامِ. First night was miskin. عَلَى حُبِّهِ. عَلَى حُبِّهِ. The Mufassirin say عَلَى حُبِّ means عَلى حُبِّ الطَّعَامِ, meaning that they were hungry. That they didn't give their ta'am and they weren't hungry. It's not like, when you're full, like imagine you bought 2 burgers and you give someone a burger. You've done well, but it's not. You weren't going to really start the second one anyway. But when you're giving your only food, ala hubbi, miskinan, wa yatiman wa asira. So they gave it to a poor person. And then the next night, an orphan knocked on the door. They gave it to the orphan. And the last night was an escapee, a captive that escaped. This person was probably not even a Muslim. And they gave it again, 3 nights in a row. And then they said something. that they didn't say publicly, didn't come out and tell people. Allah exposed this in the Qur'an. Allah let it be known. They said, Innama, we only nut'imukum liwajhillah. We only do this for the sake of Allah. La nuridu minkum jaza'an wala shukura. We do not want any reward or gratitude from you. Don't give us a reward and do not thank us. This is what we do it for. We don't want a reward for what we're doing. This is 3 days without iftar. No supper means no food for the rest of the night. It's not like they had suhoor the next morning where there was a great amount of food available. If you go through the narrations, you read how they lived, the narrations would actually describe how Al-Hasan al-Hussein looked. It said their eyes had sunk into their sockets from hunger. This is how they lived. This is who Fatima was. That would give. Her house was a house of giving. Now, of the stations and the position of Fatima is that she is known as Sayyidat Nisa Ahl al-Jannah. When we say Sayyidat Nisa al-Alameen, some people will say Maryam is Sayyidat Nisa al-Alameen. She is the lady of the women of the world, and it's in the Qur'an, and then Fatima, and then you have to give them the other narration that says Maryam was the lady of the women of the worlds of her time, or is Fatima is the lady of the women of the worlds of all time. However, rather than go into this debate altogether, you give them this hadith. This hadith that is mentioned unanimously by all schools of thought, that Fatima is Sayyidat Nisa'i Ahl al-Jannah. So, in paradise, she is of the highest. She is the highest station. Of the things concerning Fatima and concerning the Jannah, and Jannah is very important for you to discuss. A lot of times we talk about Jahannam, we talk about the wrath of God, but it's also very important to discuss the Jannah. Because when you read the Qur'an, Allah doesn't speak about the fire of hell only, He also speaks about paradise. And al-muttaqun, the God-fearing, the God-weary, the righteous, the pious, when they read the Qur'an, it says in Amir al-Mu'mineen says, Hum wal Jannah kaman qad ra'aha fahum fiha muna'amun wa hum wal nar kaman qad ra'aha fahum fiha mu'adhabun. That when they read about paradise, they are like the ones that see paradise. They imagine paradise. They reflect over paradise, and they feel the blessing of paradise. Likewise, when it comes to the fire of hell. So this is how I must feel about paradise. Not the things that are mentioned when it comes to paradise is, when you cleanse your nose, when you're doing wudu. And we say, oh Allah, that we ask in dua, give us what? Do not prevent us from smelling the scent of paradise. And then it says, and make us of those that smell the sweetness of the scent of paradise. And you cleanse your nostrils in wudu, which isn't an obligatory act, it's a recommended act. That when we do it, that's okay if you're doing it. I always put disclaimers. If you're doing this and you're in the bathroom, super. But scrape anything left on the sink. Doesn't mean I'm doing mustahab, I just leave everyone to see my remains. And don't do it in the kitchen, or else I'm going to assist you to put your head further underwater as well. So make sure that if I'm going to do something, I do it in the bathroom. However, I clean after myself, and this is its benefit. So the narration says, فَإِذَا اسْتَنْشَقَ, if someone cleans out their nostrils, آمَنَهُ اللَّهُ مِنَ النَّارِ وَرَزَقَهُ رَائِحَةَ الْجَنَّةِ. That if you clean out your nose, Allah will make you safe from the fire of hell and will allow you to smell the scent of paradise. So of the things that will prevent you from smelling the scent of paradise. What are they before we get to it? The first one is something that is obvious. Where the Messenger of God sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wa sallam says, "Ala ومن مات على بغض آل محمد لم يشم ولم يشم ولا يشم رائحة الجنة." Whoever dies with the hatred of the family of Rasulullah will never smell the scent of paradise. And you see these people that hate, these people that are hell-bent on wanting to destroy the shrines of Ahlul Bayt, the ones that move in this way, they have this enmity towards Ahlul Bayt alayhim as-salam, that they come up and they always talk against Ahlul Bayt alayhim as-salam. Sometimes they will suggest what they think. They won't say it too openly. But the ones that have this hatred towards Ahlul Bayt alayhim salam, they won't even smell the scent of paradise. In fact, another hadith, we say, the hadith says that Al-Hussein is abab min abwab al-Jannah. Imam Hussein is the door of the doorways of paradise. One of the doorways is Al-Hussein into paradise. He says no one will enter paradise if they hate Imam Hussein alayhi salam. In another hadith, he says they will not enter paradise, they will not smell the scent like this if they hate Imam Hussein alayhi salam. Let's look at the other things that prevent us. Very important for us to know this. Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wa sallam says, "Ya Aba Dhar, من مات وفي قلبه مثقال ذرة من كبر." Whoever dies and has a speck of kibr is conceit or pride. If they're conceited and they have this pride within their heart, a speck, he says, لم يجد رائحة الجنة, that they will not be able to smell the scent of paradise. إلا أن يتوب قبل ذلك, except if they repent, which is also always the given for everything. فقال رجل, a man said, يا رسول الله, he said, إني لا يعجبني الجمال حتى وددت أن علاقة صوتي وقبال نعلي حسن. So this man came up, this guy was a bit of a fashionista, he said that, hold on, I like beauty. Sometimes people, he might have a watch, he likes an Hermes waistband or something where he wants to show that. So this guy, he would have been those guys, those guys that have those diamond-studded cufflinks or something like that. He said that I like to have even the thing, your whip, because they used to have their whip. This guy might have been a bit of an Indiana Jones back then. He had a whip on the side. He said the holster for the whip, he says, I like it to look fancy, looks nice. And he said, even the soles of my shoes, the bottom of my shoes, I like this. You've seen people that polish their shoes. This guy likes even the soles of his shoes to look good. He said, am I considered of these people? Because the thing is, you might be considered what? Someone that is conceited when people dress nice or look nice. No, this isn't the case. He says, فَهَلْ تَرْهَبْ عَلَيَّ ذَلِكَ? Am I considered one of these pride people with takabbur? Then the Prophet explains what it is. He says, كَيْفَ تَجِدُ قَلْبَكَ? How do you see your heart? What's inside your heart? He says, قَالَ أَجِدُهُ عَارِفًا لِلْحَقِّ مُطْمَئِنًا إِلَيْهِ. That I know the truth, I know what's true, and I'm content with this truth. And I'm not someone that thinks that I'm all that. He's not someone that stands up and says, I'm bigger than the universe. He's someone that knows what he is. And then the Prophet says, Laysa dhalika bil kibr. This isn't haughtiness. This isn't conceit. You wanting to look good. He says, ولكن الكبر أن تترك الحق وتتجاوز إلى غيره. Kibr is for you to leave what is right and to basically transgress. You're moving across, you're crossing boundaries to what's other than pride. He says, وَتَنْظُرْ إِلَى النَّاسِ فَلَا تَرَى أَحَدًا عِرْضَهُ كَعِرْضِكَ وَلَا دَمَهُ كَدَمِكَ. This is important for today's world. He says, when you look at others and do not see their dignity or their honor like yours, and you do not see their blood like yours, and you see this today. You know, you see when they question the people that we're attacking a hospital because there are terrorists inside the hospital. And then the person questioning says, hold on, if these terrorists were hiding in a hospital of yours, like an Israeli hospital, one of these hospitals, would you bomb that hospital too? They say it's a complex issue. This is takabbur, where you see the blood of others lesser than yours. You see they're not as valuable as you are. There was a photo today, it's very iconic, of that Luigi Mangione, or whatever his name is, the guy that shot the CEO outside the New York hotel. I don't know if anyone saw it, the healthcare CEO. And because he shot someone of status, he shot someone of fiscal value, if you see the way he's being carried away, he's chained up and he's got like a whole army around him. And someone put up a quote on this and said, Jesus of Nazareth in 33 AD being taken away by Roman soldiers to be crucified. Do you understand? So in other words, because of what he did, this is how he said, he shot a CEO, which is just another murder that happens in America. How many murders happen in America? How many do you think happen in America? Australia is not even a speck next to the American murders. In fact, Australia, just to give you an idea, Australia, I think, has 10% of the murders committed in Chicago, Illinois. Forget the rest of America. Just in Chicago, Illinois, gun murders committed in Australia are 10% of what's committed, and I'll probably use some hyperbole, it's probably less than that even, in Chicago only, not in the rest of the United States. However, the biggest terrorist operation took place, the pager and the walkie-talkie attack, which should always be mentioned. The person that perpetrated that walks freely wherever he wants. And in fact, is celebrated. This is what we're talking. This is pride. This is takabbur. Even if you see the people that were celebrating the fall of the Syrian government were holding photos of Saddam. Because our tyrant is good, the other tyrant is not good. Do you understand what I mean? And this is the same here. This is takabbur. When you think that your blood is valuable and theirs is not, which is not, that's not even acceptable anyway. The blood of an innocent person is forbidden. In all cases, you can't just go around and kill whoever you please. Another thing that we have a big problem in today is women that, because obviously it's women, because men don't ask for a divorce, they just divorce. But it says, Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wa sallam says, أيما امرأة سألت زوجها الطلاق في غير ما به بأس فحرام عليها رائحة الجنة. So a woman that seeks divorce for no special reason, there's no problem, she just wants a divorce. Why do you want? I just want a divorce. He says, the Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, it's narrated that he said that the scent, the smell, the fragrance of paradise becomes forbidden on her. So I just want a divorce. You know, just one day she snaps out of it. You know, one day she gets onto the internet, meets someone else, says, you know, this guy's got a bigger car, bigger house, you know, he can spend more money on me. Says to the husband, look, I don't think I love you anymore, I want out. Just like that. And there's cases like this. They'll just say, I'm not interested anymore, I want out. You know, I feel like retiring, like they play for some football team or something. You know, it's one of the funniest things when a guy leaves the house. It's in relationships. You have a guy, he'll leave the house, or a woman will leave the house. She'll go back to her parents. And I say, why'd you leave the house? Were you kicked out? No, I just left. And then I say, oh, you play